Hi, welcome to another bite-sized educational as part of Summer of Love. And I have my wonderful friend and colleague, Danielle Beck here. Hi, Danielle.
Hello, Andy. How are you?
I'm great, thank you. Now, um, this whole series of talks is about emotional well-being because emotional well-being matters. And today we're going to talk about emotional well-being for reptiles. Now, this is really important and powerful for me because we've talked before off air about how there is a real kind of welfare crisis for reptiles because just because of people's lack of understanding and how important emotional well-being is for reptiles and how even social well-being is important for reptiles, all these kind of things we might not think about. So and I think if we understand and have a consideration for the emotional experience of reptiles, it really makes us think, well, maybe that must be the same for my dog and my cat and myself then, actually, you know. So let's dive straight in. So tell us a little bit about your interest in reptiles and where
Yeah.
that's come from and the important considerations for you that you really want people to know about these wonderful and actually quite emotionally rich animals.
Oh, they're amazing. So my reptile love comes from little 16-year-old me. I was never allowed dogs as a child, because my parents worked. So I kind of had guinea pigs and rabbits and things. And then I was in a pet shop and I saw the cutest little green lizard. It was only about this big at the time. It was 35 pounds. And it was called a green iguana. And I was like, you sure they get quite big? My parents were like, yeah, they get quite big. And and I was just finishing my GCSEs and I really wanted something that was different. And at the time, as a young teenager, I was struggling mental health and things. So I kind of really wanted something that I could that I could dive into that could give me a little bit of emotional feedback as well. That could be a specialist thing that only I could look after to kind of give me a little bit of purpose and growth at the time. So me and my dad did some research. We're like, yep, these things get like 6 foot. They're huge. They're vegetarian. So we built him an enclosure. So we got him and he was just tiny. He had a little harness that we used to have, and he lived for 15 years and was the most incredible animal that I've ever had the pleasure of being around. And being a young person, I was very interested in animal training. At the time, I very much wanted to go into wildlife conservation and zoo work and that side of things. So I was starting to do like a national diploma in animal care, and he kind of went through my animal care journey with me into my zoology, where I specialize in herpetology because reptiles were going to be my thing. And there was one point in my career, well, my time at university, where we had about 40 reptiles in our house. And we were just the students that had all the reptiles, and we would rescue everything and anything and try to make sure the enclosures were built up. And that's when I first started to realize the difference in the way that I kept my lizards to the way that my fellow herpetologists would keep their lizards. And a lot of it was because I was always kind of considering animals as an individual. So I love to interact with them. I love to train them. I love to give them interactive toys just because of my own curiosity. I'd be like, well, what would you do if I gave you like some food wrapped up in a cardboard tube? What would you do if I put it in a ball? What would you do if I did this? So I take all the things that I see my friends doing with their dogs and kind of go, I wonder if my iguana could like do that. I wonder if he could follow a target stick. I wonder if I could toilet train him. And I could. And then I did the same thing with my baby dragons, with my plated lizards, did elements of it with my snakes. And it was the bit for me that changed the way that when I did change my career into dogs, it fueled that positive emotional well-being side of dogs for me because I'd seen it in reptiles. So when I started to appreciate dogs that more, I'm like, but I can do this stuff with my lizards. I'm like, so why aren't we doing it with our dogs? And then the more I kind of discussed and worked in the industry and worked in like zoos and things, for me, just like the emotional experience of animals in general, whether we're talking reptiles or fish, birds, parrots, cats, rabbits, like it's all there. They all have these base emotions that we need to help. And there's so much that we can do to really help nourish that without it kind of, it's not hard to do. We just need to raise awareness of how to do it. So that's kind of me in a nutshell.
I think that's a really powerful story because what I'm hearing there is that what was that what was the name of your first reptile?
Dexter.
Dexter.
Yeah, he was named after
Dexter,
Dexter Holland in The Offspring.
he was a real companion for you, and you went
Oh
through
God,
it
yeah.
together. And I love the idea of him in his little harness, just enjoying life and living to 15 years old. I think part of the issue for reptiles is almost a sense of you know well, they don't live very long. Wait, another one. And I think, and also understanding that they have their own complex needs and
Mhm.
their own feelings. Feelings and emotions are important, so important that Mother Nature's integrated them everywhere. And
Yeah.
so if somebody's listening in now and they have reptiles at home, what are the things that they should be considering then about that, about their companion reptiles' emotional experience and needs, and what little things can they do that might make a difference?
Yeah. I mean, a lot of it starts with their enclosure. And the masters that I did was on lizard stress. So we looked a lot at enclosure design and things, because essentially everything that is everything that we do for our reptiles is all enclosure and husbandry based. Because they're solar powered, they need lights and heats and things to enable to live. So first of all, it's having a look at the species of reptile that you have in particular. Are they a terrestrial one? Do they hang out at the ground a lot? Are they a burrowing species? Are they a climbing species? And making sure that they have access to that as like a baseline. Um, so I'm not going to discuss like the heating and lighting elements, because I'm going to make the assumption that anyone keeping a reptile has already got the right heating and lighting temperatures for their species. But the way that you design the enclosure is going to really help boost the emotional well-being, because a lot of our reptiles are prey species. Some are predators and prey, but many of them are going to be very wary of anything kind of coming in over the head. So making sure that you have lots of hides available. And this one always tends to confuse people, because like, well, if they've got hides, they're going to stay in the hides all the time. I'm like, not if they feel confident. Like if they feel confident, if they feel comfortable, and if they've got lots of hides around, so they know that they can dart into something really quickly, the curiosity will come out. So if we've got kind of active foragers, so if we've got some kind of plated lizards, some of the skinks, not so much bearded dragons, they more sit and wait, so I'll come to them shortly. They're going to want to explore and forage. So for these ones, have things that they can climb on and over, have things they can hide in and walk through, hide food around, and really watch them. There's a lot of the reptiles, especially some of our geckos, that are just fantastic at setting up an amazing enclosure, and just sit back and watch them and appreciate them. And they'll really appreciate that as well, because they'll start to get confident with just you moving around the enclosure and not interacting with them. And then you can start to build that up, especially if you can put like predictor cues in, and you can really target train a lot of these animals. They have a lot of intelligence there, and they're highly skilled at what they do. And we can really build on that and help. And I think when you kind of talk about emotions in reptiles, people tend to snub it. But everyone that's got a reptile, you'll see when they're scared, because they will run away. And if they can feel fear, they can feel joy. Like it's one emotion there. So that's kind of where I start. It's like if they feel fear and they run away from you, then they're going to feel other emotions as well. And it's not to us to kind of take that away from them. So I would start off having lots of hides around, and then have a look at what they would naturally have in their environments. Do they want to dig in things? Do they want to climb in things? If they're a sit and wait predator, like a lot of our bearded dragons, so bearded dragons are huge in the UK. Lots of people have them. I adore bearded dragons; they're my favorites, and they are a little more interactive. But they kind of hang around, and they don't really do much until they see something, because that's the whole point of a sit and wait predator, is they move around, they sit, they wait. Nothing happens. They'll move a bit, they'll sit, they'll wait. So you kind of have to have things in that's going to spark that interest. So treat balls, I've had like little Kongs, that you can get for rabbits. I put little mealworms and things in there, and just place it in the enclosure, and you'll see them kind of tip their eye and look at it and be interested. And then they'll see something movement, and then they'll go in. And over time, as soon as you start bringing this little item in, they'll just run straight to it and start interacting. And it's just a great way to help build up their confidence and make that associative learning, that when this comes in, this is going to happen. And once you do that, you start to reduce the fear. And once you reduce the fear in these animals, their confidence can grow so much, and you can have the most amazing relationships with them, where they'll actually want to come out and be on you, and you can handle them, because you're not handling them, they're walking onto you. And it's a very different relationship.
And I think I love that, and I love the notion and introduction of this, the power of positive associative learning, because and there are some things that as you say, if the reptile think I don't I feel anxious now, I need to get away. As you say, the opposite of that, oh, I feel safe, I want to stay.
Yeah.
I think so that. We've got a reptile study coming out with Pet Remedy very soon, and the time when the product had its most value and support was around handling, which is, of course, if the reptile isn't used to it, isn't expecting it, and the hand from the gods just comes down and scoops you
Yeah.
up, then it's tricky. And I think a lot of this stuff, from what I'm hearing, actually, Danielle, is about predictability over positive outcomes. It's like,
Yeah.
actually, that looks a bit weird, and check it out. Actually, that was okay. Or that was really cool. Oh my God, it's come back again. And I guess
Mhm.
it's the same with handling. Just to finish off, have you got any little tips on handling? And I know the kind of real aim is to handle as little as possible, but
For the
also
majority of it.
there's an element of getting reptile consent as part of handling.
Yeah, absolutely. So the biggest thing, so a lot of early kind of keepers are always taught when you go to pick them up, you kind of put your claw like this. So you have your fingers over their shoulders and you kind of reach up and you can grab so you can hold their tail. And that's a safety thing for us, so they can't bite you. But if you kind of do this claw movement and kind of think like predatory bird, it looks like an eagle claw. So
Mm.
for a prey species, having this kind of come over their head is going to put them in that startle response. It's going to make them posture towards you. It's going to make them hiss and want to do something. So if we take that away and have like your flat hand out in front of you and allow them to kind of come and encourage and just sniff. And I tend to just kind of leave my hand in there a little bit and just get them used to the hand coming in and just touching something else and moving away and just staying there. You can then start to kind of lure a little bit if you want to, but with lure and reward, very similar to our dogs. You kind of want to have your hand in, place a treat a little bit further away, let them have a look and interact with you, move it away, bring it back, put a treat in. And then eventually they'll start to comfort and they'll start to lick your hand. Just be wary of some of the species if they're a bit overconfident. So some tegus, for example, when new things come in, they kind of go, "Oh, this might be food," and they'll kind of wiggle their tails and try and jump, thinking that you're prey. And it's not them being nasty; it's just the prey thing. So it's introducing your hands very, very slowly and letting them come onto you, but not being really quick. So if they do walk on, let them walk on and over. Don't be really quick to kind of try and lift and put the movement in, because that's going to initiate a startle response in them, and you're going to get them to either cling onto you for dear life or jump off. If you have a terrestrial species like a chameleon in particular, chameleons need to grip things because of their claws. So if you have particular sticks or things that they can climb on and hold on to, that's going to be a lot safer for taking and moving. So if you have to transport a chameleon from one place to another, try and have a stick that you can use that becomes their grip stick that they can hold on to feel safe. And they're going to want it up high, especially if you're taking them to the vets and things like that, because just being on the floor on a table doesn't give them stability. They don't feel safe when they've got a flat surface. But just something as simple as here's a stick you can hold on to just allows them to grip. And it's just little things like that about knowing the species that you own in particular, where do they live naturally, what helps them feel safe. And once you start to get that, the safety and predictability overrides, and you see how curious these creatures really are.
Oh, amazing, Daniel. Thank you so much for sharing all that with us today.
No
Now,
problem.
you wear multiple hats. You're a clinical animal behaviourist.
Mhm.
You have a lot of experience working with multiple species. Dogs
Yeah,
are obviously a big kind of part of what you do.
yeah,
You also run the amazing Control the Meerkat
I do.
platform, and including the conference that comes up. Can you just let our audience know how they can find out more information about the work you do?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm on social media in all of different places. So if you have a look on Facebook, I'm at controlthemeerkat.com. We have a public Facebook group that anyone can join that we discuss. And the meerkats are an analogy for like that fight and flight response. So you may recognize a few guys in the background, which is all based on the emotional experience. It's making sure that they feel safe so they don't get hijacked, and have the thing. So if you Google either Danielle Beck, Clinical Animal Behaviourist, or Control the Meerkat, you will find me in multiple different places. And I'm always happy to engage with people.
Well, thank you. And we'll make sure we share those things on with the video as well. And also to let people know, you're going to come and join me in the Emotional Wellbeing in Animals group in the near future to have a whole hour discussion about this, because it's fascinating. And I've really enjoyed the information today. Thank you so much, Danielle. And
Thank you.
thank you, everybody, for listening in, and look out for some more of these bite-sized educationals as part of our Summer of Love. Thank you, Danielle.
Thank you, Andy.